in the last run out.
Again, leg side, and just as well that mid-wicket fielder was in there, but it'll allow a single, a misfield. Sloppy from the Dutch to start with, a lot of cricket to be played, but that is not the tone that you want to set up at the top. And I think this has tended to be why they haven't been opening the bowling with Paul van Meekeren, much more effective in the second power play. Why is Viv Kingma not playing in these conditions?
Well, that's what I was just about to ask. Again, I mentioned before that's the biggest surprise. No Kingma in the side. But, yeah, you're right about the tone. You just get all the team out there, you get them fired out, you come out, and then it starts with a couple of wides.
Full in length, and Anil Kumar Shah tries to work it into the leg side. He's a stylish player. Much better. Too high, you would imagine. Definitely going to bounce over the top. Van Meekeren was interested. Top.
Just happy to have another look at this one. That ball angling in, but it just looked a little bit maybe too high. Gets good bounce, Van Meekeren.
It's actually jagged back quite a bit as well. Might even have missed the leg stump. A very good decision. Saw the umpiring come under the microscope a couple of days ago. There was a lot of very close decisions. Felt like everything kind of went the batter's way, really, in both innings. Standing today, we've got the two Scottish umpires. Big, extravagant drive attempted. Ryan Milne at the nursery end, who just made that decision. David McLean is at square leg at the pavilion end. Ghazi Sahel is our third umpire from Bangladesh. Can only imagine the contrast between Bangladesh's temperatures and here in Dundee. And Graham McRae, the ICC match ref. Beautiful. It's a short ferry hop across the Irish Sea.
You would know, Lenny. You've done that a few times. This is much better from Van Meekeren after those early wides. First, he was bringing the stumps into play and the pads, and then the next ball, he's tempting the drive outside off stump.
Fuller this time. Good finish to the over. I don't think the real issue in terms of player availability, obviously, for the Dutch. This Klein starts very, very full, but I just wonder whether or not they're quite at their best in terms of their balance. I think that's the issue for them. I don't think they're necessarily picking the best 11 that's possible. And for me, I think they need an extra seamer in this 11. Michael Levitt, he's capable, but he's very much a part-timer, Mel. And yeah, interesting to see that it's just the two frontline seamers they're going with in conditions. Well, what is it? Probably 10, 11 degrees. It's blustery. We've had heavy overnight rain, so much so that you'll see on one of the shots that the original pitch that was used 2 days ago has got a massive wet patch on it. It rained basically throughout the day yesterday. Dutch strength has always been their seam bowling, and I can't quite get my head around as to why they're going so light on the seamers. I'll hear from Mel Farrell in a couple of moments, just getting her microphone tidied up. But hopefully, Mel Farrell back with me now, they can find early penetration from Klein and Van Meekeren, because if they don't, well, they're relying on Arjan Dutt and Roelof van der Merwe, and, well, we don't know who's going to make up that fifth bowler.
Well, that's a massive question for them. And you kind of feel we've wondered about decisions at the toss and decisions with their selection as well through this round. But it also, let's face it, has just been performances on the field as well. Was really impressed with Klein. I thought he's bowled actually really well. Took 3 wickets against Scotland, but went for 81 runs. Because we have seen throughout these couple of weeks on both pitches, the best time to bat is in the afternoon.
Beats the outside edge and got the rarest of things from Scott Edwards, almost an admission Did he got it wrong a few days ago? He tends to be, and this is in a good way, I mean this in a complimentary way, he tends to be very driven and focused and set in his mindset and kind of certain of his decisions. But you and I thought he got it completely wrong by winning the toss and batting first in the reverse of this fixture. And he actually said to me there at the toss, well, you learn and you live, and we probably got it wrong the other day, which I was really surprised by.
I think that's great. I can understand why, players are almost conditioned to not admit that they get something wrong, particularly captains, and I can understand that.
Good delivery. Fantastic length from Kyle Klein. That's the kind of tone you want set from your opening over. As Klein goes for just one, it's 6 for none.
Yeah, really good second over from Klein. And this is what he was like against Scotland. He was tight early. Of course, the problem for him is he had to come back and bowl to Michael Leask when Michael Leask was on an absolute tear and was belting everyone all over the place. But yeah, early on, and as we see Van Meekeren coming back to bowl his second over, you just want that first ball to be right length, right line. First up, just lay down your marker first. Don't put yourself in a position where you've got to try and get out of the over.
Yeah, I think it was really, I'm just trying to work out who took Klein apart in that. It was the Nepal fixture, wasn't it? Nepal versus...
It was my mistake. I'm still blinded by the brilliance of that.
Yeah, that game in 2 days' time, the Scots, well, they're going to be full of confidence, aren't they? They've kind of got the wood over the Dutch. 2 consecutive wins over them. They just look in better form than the Netherlands have done.
Oh, what's been encouraging for Scotland in this round is that it hasn't always been the usual suspects. I mean, especially with Leask, obviously, in the last game, but he'd been on a bit of a horror run of form with the bat. He'd been bowling well. But to see him roar back and, see it hasn't been the best series for George Munsey or for Brandon McMullen with the bat. I think it's been quite positive to see the real emergence of like a Charlie Tear, to see Finlay McCreath being able to get runs as well.
Worked into the leg side. It'll just be a single. Yeah, it kind of shows how different the conditions have been, and they've almost turned themselves in the head. You'd have thought early May in the Netherlands, the ball would have done all sorts, but with that wonderful spell of early, sort of late spring weather, early summer weather, depending upon how you want to look at it, the pitches were very flat there at the VRA and Kampong, whereas here, even though we've had some high scores, there's been kind of assistance early, particularly for the side who has to bat first. So, yeah, Munsey and McMullen have got found out by that kind of slightly different condition to the Netherlands, and they looked, well, I'll tell you something, they looked $1 million there last month. But you have to be able to do it in all conditions, and I've no doubt Brandon McMullen in particular will want to put that right in the final game in 2 days. Good over from Van Meekeren, 9 for none after 3.
Yeah, that was much better from Van Meekeren. That first over just a bit loose at the start, and kind of had to have found his way through this league. And
even the UAE were stranded at the bottom of the table. They beat Scotland, the reigning champions, in European conditions. Probably could have won another game or two. Just the fielding and the running between the wickets, Mel. We raved about Dipender Singh Irene. First boundary of the day. It'll go to Kushal Britell. Maybe not exactly where he intended it, but it was a bit of a loose delivery from Kyle Klein. Well put away.
Goes down in the scorebooks as a boundary, and that's all that matters.
Pretty sure this has gone to the offside in the end, so I don't know how you top edge a hook shot over to the offside.
That's extraordinary.
Just one bounce, isn't it, across the rope? I tell you, a miracle the cameraman even knew vaguely which way that was going, because it could have gone anywhere, couldn't it?
Well done to the crew.
Yeah, thanks to our crew, battled the conditions here so ably. Worked into the leg side. That's a good shot. A little bit of extra bounce from Kyle Klein. It should be a couple as Paul van Meekeren again will have to get more oxygen into the lungs. Good throw though, right in over the top. Good start this for Nepal. They don't need to be 60, 70, 80 after the first 10 here. If they could even be 40, 45 for none or one at the end of the first 10, given the conditions, that'd be a great start.
Yeah, it's quite circumspect early on. But, well, we know just how, we've seen how much they're able to catch up. Of course, they don't have Gulshan Jar in the lineup today, and that's a big loss with his acceleration, but they've got plenty of power.
Really looking forward to watching Bashir Ahmed. Thought he was one of the standout players in the entirety of that inaugural Nepal Premier League in December, and that was in a Bratnagar Kings side that, being honest with you, were struggling. He played a couple of remarkable innings under significant pressure. Can score all around the ground, particularly good against the spinner. The reaction and the response from Kyle Klein to his worst career figures will be interesting. Or most expensive career figures, should I say. He's had nothing but success really since he forced his way into this side. He's still just 23 years of age, but unusually expensive both games against Scotland. I think maybe the concern, as we just see the Sawdust being patted down by Mend of the Fourth, 16 for none. Is there an element of Scotland kind of getting used to him over the couple of games in Netherlands last month and now the two matches here and kind of really taking a liking to him?
Yeah, that's a distinct possibility. And these teams, of course, face each other an enormous amount across two formats over a period of time. And that's why you can sometimes see a real impact from bringing someone new in. We saw that with Scotland bringing in Mackenzie Jones, their tall, incisive debutant who had a heck of a debut the other day. Took 3 catches.
I thought that was a great selection. Particularly given Nepal do have a bit of a weak spot in their batting in terms of bowlers with extra bounce. You're just seeing the first Nepal fans really start to come to life in the crowd. Driven down the ground and should be driven for 4. Max O'Dowd is going to chase after it, but I think it'll be a chase in vain and it will get to the rope, and the Nepal fans, instruments at the ready, are loving every second again.
Oh, fantastic. They really have made these couple of weeks up in Scotland so entertaining. Quite interesting that Saar's yet to get off the mark. So all the runs so far coming from Patel.
And this goes back to my point. I know he was playing down in the UK on the games that they played against the county sides. Back live with you now. But it's a bit different as an international cricket. It's a big step up always. And you look at his kind of cautious approach so far this morning. It's just as well he's got Bertel kind of on a hot streak at the other end. It's allowing him to get in.
Boy, they are in fine voice over there, Lenny. We met some of the travelling fans when we went to get dinner after the match the other day.
Incredible story, wasn't it? I think a group of 6 or 7 fans who'd come up from Birmingham the day before, got a train to Edinburgh, a coach to Dundee, but the coach was the kind of 1 a.m. coach that got into Dundee at 2:30 a.m. I think they'd walked up to Broughty Ferry or something like that.
They walked up and then they slept on the outside, waiting till it was early enough so that they could come to the ground. I was gobsmacking, Lenny. Talk about passion for the game.
Commitment,
and they were all smiles. Of course, they recognised you straight away. You superstar, you.
Not me. Such fanaticism, though.
Oh!
Chopped on. Van Meekeren has the early breakthrough. And Bertel, who was looking to continue to be aggressive in this first power play, has just perished with a slightly loose stroke. Better length from Van Meekeren, and all Bertel could do was chop it onto his own stumps.
Well, it took him a while to find his lengths, to find his lines. That one just nipping back in slightly, enough to catch the inside edge. And he might have been expensive early on. He might not have had the best start, Van Meekeren. But I'm sure his coach will be happy to see him with a wicket beside his name now.
Well, it's classic Paul Van Meekeren, isn't it? The X factor that he brings is always going to pose threat. No foot movement at all, though. The feet just completely wedged at the crease, and that's going to be what I think Stuart Law and Nick Pothas, the consultant coach, and Guy Endramala, the assistant coach, will look at here. Look at the feet. A half forward press and then no movement at all. And that's exactly why he's ended up. He's got great hand-eye coordination, but when the ball doesn't move, you can probably whip that away without moving your feet. Little bit of shape, little bit of indifferent bounce, and all he does is chop it onto his stumps. You could say unlucky, but look at the feet here. There's that initial forward press and then nothing at all. And he just ends up getting stuck on the crease and chops it on.
Now what that means is that we have two batters out in the middle who are yet to score. Bim Sharkey, who's just walked out there, and Anil Kumar Shah, who is still to get off the mark.
Beauty. Really good from Van Meekeren. This is going to be such a challenge. Nepal have to look at the assets that the Dutch have and the 20 overs of Van Meekeren and Klein and find a way through them. And then they're going to have to score off the spinners, which won't be easy because they've been very frugal throughout the series for the Dutch. But particularly target that fifth bowler. That will be the critical 10 overs for this whole contest. For Nepal to have a real chance today, that fifth bowler, which was likely to be Michael Levitt in a combination maybe with a bit of Zach Lyon-Cachet, but no Vikramjit Singh in the team today, so he can't be used as an option. They'll have to go really, really well against that fifth bowler.
Last time did they use Levitt for 10 overs? I had a feeling that they might have.
I think in the last game, Zach Lyon-Cachet bowled a bit.
Maybe he did. Well,
it was a previous game.
Yeah, it was one of the games where they ended up having to use him for 10 overs.
Which is the first time in his ODI career that he's done that. Yeah. But Levitt was targeted quite significantly in the second game. That was against Scotland. 5 overs, none for 34 that day. But yeah, previously against Nepal, bowled 10 overs, 2 for 43.
Lenny, I hate it when we're talking about a player and their fielding just in front of us.
I love it. Halfway through the power play, 5 overs have been bowled, 21 for 1. They're international cricketers, Mel.